My name is Clara. I work in the Career Center here at DTU, which is placed right over here in the corner. Today we'll talk a little bit about how to make a video application. The first reaction when a lot of people hear that is, oh no, that's not for me, or I'm not that good in front of a camera, so I don't want to do that, or I'm not that extrovert, so it doesn't really suit me. But the good thing about making video as a cover letter is that it's pretty new. It's creative, so you can sort of adapt it to how you want it to be and how you are as a person. So there's not that many rules, and I think that is pretty liberating, that you don't really have to focus that much on that, but just can be yourself. The reason that I will be talking here today is because I got the job here at DTU by sending a video application. There was about 100 person applying for the position, and I was the only one sending a video. And that made me stand out, which, of course, if you have been to some recruitment tips and tricks, that's what you really want. In a recruitment process, you want to stand out and you want to be remembered. And that's just the easy way to stand out, because not many people are doing it. I've also helped a lot of friends and in my network making videos. I applied for fundings by making videos, so I've been working with this medium for some time. And I've also seen other people making their application, for example, DTU students applying for talent programs. And the thing is that because it's so personal, you get a lot of inspiration by looking at other videos and how other people do it, because everybody does it differently. So when I will be talking today, it will be based on my experiences and my personal preferences. But yeah, there's tons way of doing it, and I don't know, have any of you tried to make a video? No? Yeah, you have. Great. If you have any thoughts or ideas on how you did it, you're welcome to join in, because we can all learn from each other. So today I will be talking a little bit about what is a video application, why it's a good idea to make a video application. Then I will talk a little bit about some practical stuff that are good to have in mind before you get started. The visuals of working with a video, your appearance, and last, some technicalities. So when it comes to working with a video and that you have to send it out to a company, there's different ways to do it. You can either do it, for example, as a CV or a cover letter. A CV, you'll most likely just list your skills, and therefore can be a bit boring to listen to or watch as a video. Whereas a cover letter, you talk about your motivation, you talk about your personality, your skills, your experience, which makes it a lot more exciting to listen to. So if you consider using video, I would recommend you to do it as a cover letter. If you decide to do it as a cover letter, there's, again, different ways to do it. Some write a cover letter and just make a small motivational video where they talk about the motivation for the position or for the company. What I did was that I actually said the whole cover letter out loud. So I would do exactly the same as I would do in writing. I just said it in front of a camera. The reason why I did that is because, to be honest, I find it very boring to write cover letters. No matter how interesting the position is, no matter how many hours I spent on writing a cover letter, I find it boring, and you could tell. So I didn't get any interviews. But when I made a video, I got an interview right away. So it's also about finding your way when searching for a job and what suits you and what makes you feel comfortable and shine the most. Yeah, so the content, I did it just exactly as in writing. I won't be talking that much about how to write a cover letter or what to include in it. I can say what I kind of did, as far as I remember, is that I talked firstly about my motivation. Then I looked at the application and found some tasks that I found interesting, and then I said how I was going to solve it based on my experience or my skills or my personality. Yes. So, why make a video application? For me, I was just better at talking than at writing. So I found out after a long time that that was the way that suited me best. At first, I was like, I'm never gonna make a video application because some companies said they want a video, and I was like, I don't want to do that. It's not for me. But at the end, I found out it actually works better for me because it's more loose. But there's of course other advantages, and one of them is that the company can get a clearer picture of who you are. I don't know if you have been to the recruitment tips and tricks so far, but a lot of companies tell that they, especially with graduates, that they hire for personality. And then they're willing to train you up when it comes to your skills. So personality is a big, big thing when it comes to recruiting you guys. And because video is more free, I think, there's not that many rules on how to express yourself, what to say, whereas if you make a typo in a cover letter, they can easily be a little bit, oh, you're sloppy, or you didn't care about the job enough because you didn't see the typo. And I, for example, I got blinded by what I wrote myself, so I would never see the typo, and then I would never get the job. But with a video, there's not that many expectations, so you can be a little bit more yourself. You can express the way you want to, and because it's like talking to somebody in front of you, it's all right to stumble a little bit on the words. It's all right to say something a little bit off, because it's more natural. So they won't judge you the same way. That's what I found. And I found that's a bit relaxing to think of. Yeah, so when you are able to express yourself the way you want to, you can also show more of your personality, which is what they're looking for. Another benefit is that it's easier to see your motivation. They can see the glimpse in your eyes, they can see that you're smiling, they can hear that you're passionate when you talk in the video. You can use body language, which is a big part of how people read you as a person. And when it's easier to see your motivation, you're more likely to get hired. So that's really a good thing I found. And lastly, just the fact that you're actually making a video is showing a lot of your own personality. It shows that you're willing to go the extra mile, which a lot of people aren't. It really shows it. It shows that you're creative and more innovative, because other people don't think of it. As I said, I was 1 out of 100, so you're a bit a step ahead in front of compared to the others. And I think it shows a lot of courage as well, because when you're applying for jobs, you're putting yourself out there a lot and making yourself a little bit vulnerable. You're putting all your effort into this application. And by making a video, you're doing it even more. And the company knows that. They see it and they appreciate it. So, yeah, it shows a lot of courage. Any questions so far? No? Okay, before you get started, there are some small things that are good to have in mind before you start recording. One of it is to prepare what to say. Just like a recipe, if something is lacking, it won't be as good. So a good idea is to prepare what to say, when you want to say it, and how you want to say it. It helps you to speak more freely. And yeah. So what I did is I made a manuscript. Other make bullet points. It's up to you what works best for you. I found out that if I make a script, then I keep it to the sentences that I actually want to say, whereas if I make bullet points, I go off in all directions and just start talking, and that wasn't the best thing for me. Another thing is to practice, at least for me and for him as well. It's hard to get it right the first time. So practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel to come to be in front of the camera. Yeah, and when you feel more natural and more free, and it's just more relaxed in front of the camera, it's also easier to focus on what you're saying and actually who you are as a person. Yeah. So, to keep it a bit in the kitchen area, keep it short and precise. Don't be afraid to cut out important things. You can always say that at a job interview. When it comes to the length of a video, you normally say 1 minute, maximum 1.5. I would even say 1.5 is too long. At least when I made my videos too long and had to review them again, I found out that I lost concentration. I stopped listening to myself, even if it was my own video, because yeah, it's hard to stay focused for that long of a time. So better to keep it short and cut out some stuff. So, because video is a visual medium, there's some other things you have to think of when you're making one. Whereas written, you just write it down and everything's good. There are some details that will influence how you are perceived and how you are read as a person. And just by changing some small visuals, you can make a much better product. So to prove my point, I have taken some different pictures of me so that you can see it yourself. I'm sorry that you have to see so many pictures of me, but I thought that was the easiest way to explain it. So when it comes to visuals, I will talk about the background, the lighting, and the angle of the camera, which I've seen a lot of people's different approaches to. So first of all, when it comes to the background, there are different opinions on what's a good background. You can either do it very personal, where you can see books, or you can see plants, or you can see art behind you that shows something more about who you are as a person. You can have just a plain wall behind you. One important thing that you have to think of is don't let the background steal the show. If it becomes too messy, you will focus on that when you watch the video and be like, oh, what's that in the background, or something like that. And you don't want that to happen. So make sure that it's not messy or steals the attention. Yeah?
Question. What about, for example, outdoors or out of your home somewhere? Is that an option at all?
Yeah, of course. You can do that as well. I've considered actually myself. The only thing that stopped me from doing it was, for example, when I recorded it, there was a lot of birds singing in the background that was like making a lot of noise. So I would be focusing on that. But I think it also depends on what kind of company you're searching for, applying for. Some where it has to do more with the environment or sustainability or something like that, I would think it was a really nice touch to it. So yeah, feel free to do it. I think it's a good idea. What I thought about the background was that, for example, a white wall was a bit too boring to look at. I think it was lacking some personality, and it seemed a little bit clinical. So what I would choose to do was to film it in front of a colored wall, and mostly you film it at your house. And the only colored wall I had was like a dark green one, so that was what I chose to use. But I think nature is a good idea. Yeah, so keep it simple. The lighting. I've seen a lot of people do some of these things why I have chosen to take some pictures of it. The first one, which is very common, is where you have the light from behind. First of all, it can be a little bit exhausting for the eyes when you're watching the video. So the one who's watching you, it can be a little bit tiring to look at for the eyes. Secondly, it's much harder to read your facial expression and therefore also you and who you are. So yeah, not the best option. Two other common things are when the lighting is from the side. Human beings really want symmetrical faces. That's what we are drawn to. So if you have light only from one side and a lot of shadow on the other, it seems very asymmetrical, which is not the best way. So try to prevent that. And it's also more, it takes more to read your face. So yeah, try to have as much light without it shining in your eyes. From both sides, I found that daylight works really well. It has warmth, it has some natural touches that I liked. For me in my apartment, that meant that I had a lot of light from one side, so I had to sort of adjust and make another lamp to create balance. But yeah, if you choose daylight and you want to cut in your video, be aware that you will be able to see it, because it doesn't take much, just the tiniest cloud in front of the sky, you will be able to see it if you cut it. I will talk a little bit about what I did in those cases where I cut in a video. But yeah, just be aware of that. Now the angle of the camera. Many people have a little bit of angle from below, which is actually, it makes sense because normally you work at your laptop, you used to see yourself, for example, in courses or classes or in meetings where you just have your laptop, so you used to see yourself a little bit from below. But I mean, some people are pretty no matter what, but for most of us, below isn't really the best angle. So I would try to prevent that. So you can either put some books underneath your laptop or some boxes or something to make sure that the camera is as the same height as your eyes. Another common thing is where your face get cut off. And I mean, those two things, or the lighting, that's not details that will make you have an impact on whether you get the job or not, but it's just details that make your video seem way much more professional. But yeah, cut off face is very common as well. Just a pity, I think, because the company wants to see the whole you, and yeah, it's a shame. So try to be as centered as possible. Yeah. Yeah, so actually it's pretty basic tips but a lot of people don't think about it, and I think it really has an effect on how you are perceived. Any questions, comments, or no? So now that we have the framing right, we can talk a little bit about how you appear in front of the camera. One thing that is very, very important is remember to smile, as a sassy little girl here. I found that the first couple of times when I was making a video, I was so focused on what to say and really wanted to like say the things I want to say and focused and concentrated and everything. And then I watched it and I looked, oh my God, it looks horrible because I wouldn't even hire myself because I wasn't open, I wasn't smiling. And just a smile on your face, it just really matters. Now I've seen some other people's videos, and when I see a person smile, it makes me smile double as much because I just get happy when I see the other person smiling. Yeah, so it has a big impact on how you feel when you watch the video. Another thing is don't hold back on your enthusiasm and motivation. Exaggerate it a little bit when you make a video. Don't hold back. It maybe doesn't have to be as much as this lovely man over here, but it's a good idea because when you watch it, if it's very flat and monotone, you will lose concentration when you watch it, no matter what you say. So have a little bit of attitude, show a lot of your personality, and then it will be much easier to listen to what you're saying and thinking, oh my God, yeah, she's right, or he's right, and what a great personality, I really want to know more, or you really sit and want more when you're watching it. Another common theme is what to wear in front of the camera. I would recommend you to wear the same as for a job interview, which here means not too formal, adapted to what kind of company you're applying for. And what I would say is the most important thing is wear something that shows your personality, something that you feel comfortable in. Because if you feel comfortable, you will also show that for the ones watching it. And some questions that I get a lot as well is how to prevent to be nervous in front of the camera. And to that, I would just say, practice, practice, practice. Just go ahead, do it. It doesn't. It's just like talking to a person in front of you. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be you and how you are. Yeah, so don't hold back and have some fun with it too. I mean, when I did it, I started laughing alone in my own living room because sometimes I would catch myself doing some weird movements or starting to say it in a weird way or something like that. So actually it can be really fun as well. So just enjoy it and let go of all the anxiety if you may have that. If you have made a script or bullet points to prepare yourself, please don't read them out loud. Don't look at them while you're recording. You can record, see if you missed something, and record again. Because, again, it's like talking to a person, and you wouldn't be talking like that, and then look up, and then like that, and look up. So it's important to see the camera as eyes, so you're looking into the eye of the person that you're talking to. Yeah. Some technicalities. When it comes to filming, of course, think about the quality of your camera. You can either do it on your phone or on your laptop. When you do it on your phone, most people have a good camera, but that mostly is behind and not in front, and you mostly film it from in front so you can see it. So sometimes even the camera can be better. I did it on the laptop, sorry. I did it on the laptop also to make sure that it wasn't shaky when I was filming it. I wanted to make sure that the camera is still, and so that I also can move my hands and be more free in my body language, so it doesn't hurt my arm or something like that when filming a lot of takes. Yeah, and if you film it on your phone, be aware that you don't have that social media angle from a little bit from above. I see a lot of people do it on LinkedIn, for example. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's all right if you do it on Facebook or Instagram, but for a job application or on LinkedIn, I just don't think it's that professional when you have like that angle from above. That's my opinion. Yeah. To record, I just used the program on my Mac, which was already there. It wasn't anything fancy. It was just click. Thank God it had like countdown, so I could sort of get prepared and get in the right position when I was filming it, but otherwise it was just pretty plain. When I decided to cut in videos, which I tried to prevent because I think it's much more work than just making it one shot, I used something called OpenShot Video Editor. I don't know if you have heard about it, but it's free. It's pretty simple. It does the job, I think. And for example, when it came to the lighting, and I found out that I had different positions between the two cuts, or the light was different, I would just put in a still photo, and then or a white background, and just write a headline to change the subjects so that it wouldn't be that obvious about the lighting, for example. Not the most professional way of doing it, but if you have other ideas on how to do it, feel free to join. I would like to know. But yeah, pretty simple actually. It doesn't have to be that big of a deal. A last thing is that a lot of companies require that you attach a PDF file for your cover letter. So what I did was I just wrote a little text like, hi. Instead of writing my cover letter, I decided to make a video, which you can see here. And then I made a link to YouTube where I had uploaded my video. And I, of course, made it so that it wasn't public. It was only the people having the link who could see it. Yeah, and then I sort of got around that bump from the company side. And the good thing about putting it on YouTube, you can see when the company is starting watching your video. So you can see how many views you have. And so you can see, okay, now they started watching it. And then you can see, oh, they watched it again. Oh, they watched it 5 times now. They're probably going to call. So you can actually be a little bit more prepared when they call you. Like, oh, really? So that's really nice, I think. It's also a kind of boost you when because it's so hard to apply for jobs, either as a student position or when you graduate. It can be really tough, especially when you write, because some companies don't write back, or they just write a standard message, thank you for your application, we found somebody else. But with a video you can see, okay, they watched it actually 6 times, so that must mean that they were considering it, which I found was really comforting. Yeah, no matter what kind of situation it was, if it was for funding or if it was for a job or something like that. So, yeah, that was my tips for making a video. Any questions or ideas or? Yeah, you want a microphone so that you can?
Thanks. I just wanted to know, you said that you did some cuts in between where you wrote some headings, like,
yeah.
But it's just a minute, like, how often you're gonna do that, or like in which context you did it? Did you say like personality and then blah blah and then something else? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for each, for example, then I would be like, oh, my motivation, and then I would make a headline for the motivation. Then I would come with my and then headline for motivation, say my motivation, headline for my arguments on why I was the best fit, and then another headline, and then the ending, sort of, kind of, yeah. So yeah, it really has to be short, and it doesn't take more than a couple of seconds to read it, so then you can sort of move along.
And would you send a cover letter and the video? Because it's often when you get an interview that they want to print it out to have like the notes about you and some stuff you wrote, but then they have nothing to print out, just your CV.
Yeah, it was only my CV and cover and the video. I didn't give them that option. So,
Thanks.
any other questions?
When you record the video, do you find it important to be able to see yourself at the same time as you're recording it? So, for example, with the laptop and photo booth, you can look at the camera and you have the screen right there, and you can see yourself. Is that very helpful to you, or would it also be fine to use the rear camera on the phone on a camera stand or something?
For me, it was easier to see myself, because along the way, if I saw that I wasn't smiling enough, I could improve that along the way in the video. So I would sort of notice, okay, I'm moving my hands too much. I move my hands a lot when I talk, apparently. So I would say, oh, I have to remember to keep them still, or something like that. So I could adjust it a little bit along the way, and I found that helpful. Some might find it a bit stressful, but for me it was a good thing, actually.
Instant feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Some other questions? It's good exercise.
You mentioned that you need to look natural when looking into the camera. Do you have any tips apart from practicing a lot on how to look natural?
I pretended that it was a person that I was looking into, so that I wasn't thinking so much about, oh, I have to make a good impression for a company. It was more, so that I could relax a little bit more. So I thought about it as a person, and then I thought more about some body language, actually. How, if I could see I was a bit too stiff in the previous record, then I would think, okay, for the next one, be a little bit more loose. So I'd actually go along the way, and as you said, instant feedback, and then just adapt it a little bit along the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thanks. In the beginning, you mentioned that you got inspired from others making video applications.
Yeah.
Where did you find these examples?
Well, before I got on DTU, I was having a startup. So I've watched in that kind of. There were some workshops with startups where I watched their videos as well, and I had friends sending their material over or asking, "Hey, can you just have a quick look on mine?" And yeah.
Okay,
and
so
then on social
there's
media.
not really any public resource.
No,
on that.
not at all.
No, okay.
It's I only go with the flow, and yeah. So kind of what just happened along the way. Yeah. And then, I mean, I've read some, I Googled it, of course, before, but it's more or less the same that they're all saying. So they're more talking about what to say in the video, like how to, like a cover letter, written cover letter. So yeah, I would just, and then I think I adjusted it also on what I saw on social media and stuff like that. How people, for example, on LinkedIn, a lot of people are saying, "Hey, I'm searching for a job," and some people are doing amazing creative stuff. Where I was like, "Oh, I really want to be able to do that," but I'm just not that creative when it comes to things like that. So I think you can find a lot of inspiration on LinkedIn as well, and how they do it more graphically. Nice.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Other questions? No? You can tag, if you haven't gotten a snack, if you came a little bit later, there's some snacks over here that you can take. And thanks for coming.